Eastern Ontario, especially by moving academic research into Eastern Ontario communities. Key partners with us in this particular project are Pella CFDC, so represented by Craig Desjardins, the Eastern Ontario CFDC network, and it's a delight to note that two of our foreign organizations, remote organizations joining us by video conference are CFDCs. So you're not part of the Eastern Ontario CFDC network, but you're part of the national network. You are sponsoring this kind of research, and of course the center. We have over 30 local, regional, provincial, and federal partners. The second project, because I'm going to be showing you both sets of results, is the Rural Research Priorities Project. This project we ended today. In fact, the funders, who are OMAFRA, received their final report this morning. Our partners on this particular project are the University of Guelph, and we're delighted, as I mentioned earlier, to have Guelph joining us remotely. The Ontario Rural Council, now called the Rural Ontario Institute, and of course the Centre. What we did with this particular project was to build on the earlier Knowledge Impact in Society, or KISS project, by extending the focus from Eastern Ontario throughout Southwestern Ontario. And what we have done in both areas is conduct what we call discovery workshops. These are opportunities, and I'm going to show you some findings so you have a bit more time to look at them while I describe what a discovery workshop involves. These are opportunities for academics at Queen's and other universities to go into Eastern Ontario and Southwestern Ontario communities and to say, what is preventing your community from being vibrant? What are the key limiting factors? And how can we provide input from the academic community to address some of the limitations? So Gay, for instance, who's in the audience, kindly hosted us. And I know that we have other CFDCs present, Craig, for instance, also, who hosted us and allowed academics to basically listen. You tell us what your economic needs are, and we'll identify knowledge in the academy to address questions that you've raised. We frame them as research questions. You can see the list of Eastern Ontario, Southwestern Ontario, and combined rankings of issues raised that academics were asked to provide input on. In Eastern Ontario, you're seeing that comparative advantage, sustainable economic development, and other issues are being raised. Similarly, in Southwestern Ontario, again, right up the top, sustainable economic development. You're saying, well, I don't see creative economy there. It's not in the top list on Eastern Ontario, or it's not in the Southwestern Ontario, it's not in the combined list. Actually, it's there, but it's just not framed using those words. So let's start with Eastern Ontario. If you look at economic diversification, what's one very simple strategy to diversify your economy? Taking advantage of the creative economy potential opportunities in your region. Look at labor migration and attraction. One of the key ways of attracting talent to your area is, of course, through fostering a creative economy and also ensuring that you have an environment that welcomes the kind of labor that you're trying to attract. Regional strategies for prosperity. Of course, the creative economy, hopefully, for many of our regions here, is part of what's on your map. Small business development. Often creative economy issues are small business issues. Best practices, learning from what's been happening elsewhere. We have with us today Dan Taylor. He's in the far corner of the room, for those of you who are physically present. Dan spoke about the best practice or the example being set in Prince Edward County. He, Craig, and others have created a phenomenal engine for the creative economy in their region. Youth retention. Many youth flee if they don't see an opportunity for either similar, a class that is a group of cadre that they relate to, and also economic opportunity. The creative economy often provides both. Individuals that they relate to plus economic potential. Tourism. A way to diversify and to strengthen your tourism is to clearly take advantage of creative economy intersections and spillovers. And the demographics of your region. If you're finding that you're losing your youth, again, this can be addressed. I can go through the list with Southwestern Ontario. I won't. the bottom line is a lot of these issues that appear to be unrelated are very closely related to the creative economy. It's occurred to me, because I know that there's some new faces here, that not everyone understands what we mean by the creative economy. And some of our speakers here, Betsy Donald and Kevin Stolaric, for instance, they've spent years and years and years defining this and studying this, and I defer to them. But I thought, let me put one definition on the table. And that is that the creative economy or the creative industries are at the crossroads of arts, culture, business, and technology. You won't have this slide in your handout or remotely. I just realized that some of you were not here for the first four, and I should probably put it in this fifth and final seminar. So just bear with me. It says that the creative economy comprises the cycle of creation, production, and distribution of goods and services that rely on intellectual capital as the primary input. So we are fostering creativity. We're attempting to create economic activity, new business development based on intellectual and creative capital. That's the goal of the creative economy business initiatives. Moving on to the slide that you do have in your package. We asked our research assistants to look at the data we gathered and to identify where the creative economy, explicitly labeled as the creative economy, ranked in the issues raised in rural Canada. Interestingly, of the 23 discovery workshops, because there were 15 in Eastern Ontario and 8 in Southwestern Ontario, overall it ranked number 15. It was number 12 in Southwestern Ontario and number 18 in Eastern Ontario. But remember, as we saw before in Eastern Ontario, it was in all of those top 10 issues. It just wasn't being labeled that. So it was actually ranked more highly, but just hidden. Participants at our annual showcase, we have for the KISS project, the Knowledge Impact Society project, a gathering face-to-face once a year. Last year, we actually had brainstorming and decision support technology. We asked people to identify and rank the issues. The creative economy, for all those gathered with about 100 people, was ranked number 1 in terms of what we needed to focus on studying in the academy to add value to rural Canada. If we just look at the Eastern Ontario findings and the research priorities, you'll see that it ranked as an issue number 1, not surprisingly, in Lennox and Addington, which is close at hand, Northumberland. Haliburton, phenomenal finding for them, and we've gone back and had a great time interacting with them and trying to foster it in Haliburton, South Lake, and so on. And you'll see that it ranked quite highly in Kawartha Lakes, Greater Peterborough, and in other regions. In Southwestern Ontario, there were only 8 workshops. 6 of them had it on the top 20. 4 of them had it in the top 10, as you can see. So what are some of the research questions that were raised? We've tried to cluster them and to present them as a beginning point for our discussions today on the agenda for research on the creative economy. If we look at some theoretical issues and these are not academic speaking, these are community representatives saying this is important to us, we want more information or research on these issues. Starting with theoretical issues. How do you actually measure this stuff? Like, how do you capture what is and is not a creative economy activity? And I'll defer to Kevin Stolaric on that one. All right? What's the generalizability of this? To what extent can the Richard Florida work, and Florida is often seen as the center of some of this, he's often most associated with the creative economy discussions, but how applicable is it to rural settings? Because isn't there a minimum sort of economic cluster or base that's required to foster these creative sparks? Well, so that's a question that's on the table. We have some thoughts, but more research is being requested. How do we actually attract creative economy professionals to our region? So what are the incentives that attract the creative class? How can we retain them? How can we develop plans that would pull them in? What kind of creative environment would be stimulating to small knowledge-based businesses? And I'm showing you where the questions come from. So